Welcome back to the Works channel. My name is John, and I'm going to show you how I made these old sewing machine drawers. My mom likes to sew, and she also likes to collect antiques, so I was trying to figure out what to get her for Christmas, and I decided to make her a pair of these. They used to come in on the underside of old sewing machines, especially the treadle styles, so they'd usually come in like a stack of 1, 2, or 3. And she has a bunch of them, and they're all over the house, so I figured it'd be cool to make her a little miniature version of them. They're usually made of quarter sawn white oak or a veneered version of that. And so I picked some quarter sawn white oak up at the lumber yard and got started. It was all 4/4 stock, so I was able to rip and resaw it as I needed for the different parts. I was building this pretty much just by eye on what proportions felt correct. I'm making them a little bit smaller than the normal ones so that it's a little bit easier to keep on a desk to store stuff. These parts for the sides of the drawers are 3/8 of an inch thick, and the drawer fronts are going to be about 7/8 of an inch thick so that they have enough thickness to accept a 3/8 inch radius round over later on. I'm just ripping this material to the necessary dimensions. I'm getting the drawer fronts and the sides all ripped to the same width, which will be the height of the drawer, and then I'm also adding a groove that'll accept the bottom of the drawer. And here I'm just going to cross cut the drawer fronts to their proper width. There's a knot I had to work around here, but I made sure to keep the best material for the drawer fronts, which had some of the quarter sawn white oak flecking that it's usually known for. After that, I could get started with the assembly of the drawers. Most of the drawers in this style are pretty crudely built. They're just held together with some glue and brad nails, so I decided to go the same route. Add a little bit of glue and then use my 23 gauge pin nailer to lock everything up. Off camera, I did add a couple of clamps so that the glue had a little bit of pressure to let it set properly. I added a 3/8 inch radius round over to the front of the drawer, and you can see that the extra thickness in the drawer front, along with the rabbet that's cut in it, allows the round over to not hit the sides of the drawers. And your boy got a little bit of burning from this bit, so I did have to do some sanding to clean it up. The drawers also had a little bit of a wobble after they dried, so I used the granite plate and some 100 grit sandpaper to flatten them out. Now that I have the drawers made, I can get started on the casework. I need to make 3 frames that will hold the drawers in place, and they'll also serve as the slides for them to run on. So I'm just getting these pieces cut. They're about a 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch, and the lengths of them are just a bit heavier than the dimensions of the drawers. I'm just going to be joining these with butt joints for now, and then I'll come back later to strengthen them with some Miller dowels. To add some strength to these joints, I decided to use the Miller dowels that I had on hand. These are the mini walnut versions, and this system just comes with a tapered drill bit as well as a stepped dowel that fits into that drill bit's hole. This is a good alternative to other types of joinery because it gives a nice through dowel look and they're pretty easy to use. Next, I could sand the dowels flush as well as add a similar radius to the frames. This radius was just traced from the drawers, so it's a 3/8 inch radius, and this will give it a nice matching look to the drawer fronts. And now I can get the casework assembled. I decided to use glue and pin nails again for this, and I'll come back later and reinforce them with some decorative brass screws. My method was to add 1 pin nail along with the glue and then check for a square. Once I knew that my piece was square, I could come back and add a second nail, and that would keep everything locked in place. And the hardest part of this portion of the project was getting the middle divider attached. I used the drawers as my spacers and just eyeballed it to see that there was an even amount of space between the top of the bottom drawer and the top of the top drawer. This will give enough room for them to open and close nicely. Most of the drawers and cases that I'd seen have some pretty ornate designs on them, and I didn't have enough time to do something like that. And if I did have enough time, I probably still wouldn't be able to do it, so this is what I came up with. I got some cheap carving tools and spent an hour or so just taking a bunch of passes with these different gouges. They weren't super sharp, and working with white oak was probably a mistake to get started with, but I think it came out nicely. After sanding it, it has a nice textured look. One of the last steps was to add these runners. I just cut some 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch strips and glued them on the tops of the middle frame and the bottom frame. These will run on the inside of the drawer sides and be stopped by the drawer fronts. And that about wraps this one up. I got a couple of comments about my previous video with the dining room table and that I didn't show enough of the finished product, and I do apologize for that. I'd like to be better in my future videos with that. So here's a little bit of a look of the finished drawers here. You can see how the runners work and how the drawer fronts act as stops. And my mom liked it. She was really surprised and happy with the gift, so I'm happy with it. Thanks for watching.